We can't look at social media and the internet as this like foreign being that came in and infected our culture. We invented it. We maintain it every day. We tell it what it's going to do next. And we can see ourselves more in it than we think that we can.
Gabi Abrao, also known online as Sigh Swoon, is an LA-based spiritual theorist, poet, and content creator. I first found her through her How to Heal from a Breakup post, and I was struck by how poetic and psychologically oriented her writing style was. This was clearly someone who had figured out how to use Instagram as a vehicle for already developed personal sensibilities. Instead of fitting herself into the form, she made the form fit for her. I fell more in love with Gabi's work upon discovering her digital resting place series. She'd created a virtual oasis amid the chaos of the feed. Gabi has a unique ability to pinpoint the struggles of life online and make artistic meaning of them. Imagine my delight when I realized we even had similar interests in the Kardashians, the simulation, and the algorithm of life itself. Gabi is a creator in the most dynamic sense of the word. She's currently co-hosting a podcast called Illusion Pod and is working on a book called Notes on Shapeshifting, which will be out in September. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so cute.
I've loved your work as a fan, a person on the internet, but then also as a therapist. You just capture a lot of these ideas of how people can self-regulate and self-soothe in artful ways. You like help provide those creative tools that I think young people can identify with.
Some people sometimes they're like, stop giving advice, you're not a therapist. I'm like, I'm just sharing what helps me, and like, it's exactly that. The way my brain works is I just see a theme in a lot of things that work for people, and I'm like, what is that one theme? And whether it's spirituality or mindfulness stuff that's a little bit more detached from spirituality, or just straight up therapy, it's like the detachment thing is the same all around.
And how would we like explore that like detachment? Because it isn't like a disassociation or like a not caring, it's like a loving detachment.
I always describe it, for me, I call it the observer and performer, and also I see it as a relationship. There's the performer, which can be really, really understood and witnessed more than ever now that we have the internet, because I feel like we evolved the internet to show ourselves that, or social media to be more specific, to show us that performance aspect of life that we've always had. And so for me, it's like there's the performer, there's the person that comes into this world who lives in a certain city, a certain country, a certain society, a family background, everything. And you're programmed with all that, and then you perform that. And you figure out who you're supposed to be, for your safety, which is an ego thing, but then also for your identity, and that's all there is, right? But if I was born somewhere else, I'd have a different programming. I'd be performing something else. And the observer is the one who knows that. The observer says, okay, this is who we are here in this situation. We can even witness it with different friend groups or different relationships who we become. And it's a relationship. It's like the observer says, okay, this is who we are right now. We're performing this character. It's just loving, but it's not dissociative. It doesn't take anything away from the performance. It's as real as it is simulated, I think.
A lot of people will come to me and talk about feeling like they're slightly different people with every group they're in, and that's normal enough. People are like, I want to be the same person everywhere I go, but that fluidity is okay if we don't pathologize it and we feel there's some grounding in who we are.
Absolutely, yeah. No, there has to be a balance, because I think there's some people who hear about this fluidity and it can take them too far off into like a nothingness, And
it sounds like what you're saying is it can help you have self-compassion too. When the observer is kind of like, I get why you're doing this in this moment because of what you need to do or what you know how to do, and then you're going on and learning how to continue the performance.
Yeah, and it's not permanent, you can look at your life as this thing that you can always change and have more control over. I also think confidence too is built from that relationship of like, oh, there's two best friends inside me that are both rooting for me, and they have to work together, as opposed to like me against the world or like me against the perception of the outside.
There's impermanence that we're talking about, and social media is in a way always moving, but then there is a unique permanence to it or a feeling of it because it's captured.
Yeah, what I'm processing now is how I can be someone who's so kind of detached from myself and then have all these people more attached to me than I will ever be to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe you're experiencing that too with having your image out there. It's like I can have my image out there because I'm not attached to my image, but then I have to deal with people who are attached to my image and I have to process what they're going through, you know? And then there's this like property. It's almost like feels like a property that I have to kind of manage, I guess. It's very strange, very new to me too.
Oh no, we're in strange times. We're all kind of out here saying like social media is crazy. Like this is weird.
Totally.
That's all we're kind of left to say. Like we don't know how to go deeper into understanding that. And I'm sure we won't totally understand it until later looking back.
Which I'm so excited for. I want it to happen in my lifetime. Like I want this to be the past and I want to hear about it. I do think it's very clear that there's a lot of like mental health decline.
Yes.
But I think they'll have really better takes of why that is instead of just like social media, take a break, you know, which is right now that's where we're at. But I think they'll have more clear reasons as to why. And maybe even a chemical change has occurred. I would be interested in that.
We talk a lot about how our bodies are going to change as we evolve, like more hunched because we're hunching over.
Oh, totally.
And our brains are changing too, for sure.
We're just going to go back to like fetus.
We are alive at a time of like that exact precipice.
Yeah, like
of
we
change.
are regressing. I think it's very clear. Like even you saying that with the posture thing, I didn't even think of that, but like a physical regression and then even just like an emotional regression.
With memes, like when just saying they're like hieroglyphics, like we're going back in the way we like
coded things before.
Yeah, also communicate.
Very symbol based,
Yeah.
right?
So we're talking about like a kind of natural and almost organic kind of regression by relating to symbols and pictures. And there's also this like late capitalism, everything's a representation, and that's like what the simulation is too, where it's like we're learning how to communicate in this way because that is what big business does, is they communicate their images, their product placement. It's like there's a Coke sitting right here and we know what that means, and, and I don't know, there's like also that.
Right, like language started and symbols started for basic reasons, right? It was like, I need to tell you that I'm thirsty, or like, I need to tell you that the river's over there, right? And then now it's just kind of, we're processing, I like to call it like the runoff, post-industrialization, like capitalistic runoff, where it's like I have all these like things that mean stuff, whether it's, you know, a meme that's like, oh, remember these from the 90s, you know what I mean? There's like, it's like your brain is full of these files of the past and it's information that doesn't really matter, you know what I mean? And then there's a few people, like I would say you, who are actually still analyzing it like it matters, which we should be doing, instead of just like being in the runoff and swimming through it and being like, oh, you know, 90s Angelina Jolie and like this and blah, blah, it's all, you know.
Like random stimuli.
Yeah.
What do you think of this nostalgia culture we're in online?
I think it makes sense because we live in a time where we feel like, whether it's true or not, that everything's kind of been done. Like I feel like the 90s was so hopeful and it was like, wow, you know, like work hard and get success. And then even now our ideas of success that we were all taught to have, our generation especially, is not the truth anymore. We learn about how the brain actually works, you know, with achieving happiness, and that it's not this linear thing. And so we don't really have any construct to tie to anymore. We don't have this path to say, oh, I'm going to go here, I'm going to be this successful. We're still thinking like that. But also with the awareness that it's not as real as we once thought it was. I don't know. I think we're just like swimming in it, and even memes are a representation of that. It's like we're swimming in all of these thoughts that are just they feel so passing, and it makes our reality also feel very temporary. We don't have any structure to hold on to, and trends pass so much faster with the internet. I think about that all the time. There was something that could be cool at the beginning of an era, and it would just take so long for like the artists and the musicians to get it to the mainstream, and, you know, and then by then the originators were over it. And now it's like someone originates with something, the image gets everywhere, and it takes almost like a few months, a year for a trend to start, you know, and end.
Medium plays a big part in that.
Yeah.
And, well, you have a Tumblr, right? And
still.
So you kind of bring throwbacks to older mediums as a way of keeping them alive. But there's a nostalgia about prior mediums, I feel like, in your work.
Well, for me, Tumblr is so personal because it was like so representative of like everything I am, I feel like. Like I found it when I was a teenager, and you know how you have those bands or musicians that you found as a teenager and they're just gonna be yours forever?
Yes.
Like that's what Tumblr is to me. I consider it like my first art studio, because it was like, I grew up in this like little apartment with my family, but we had the family computer and I could like write whatever I wanted into Tumblr. And so for me, like energetically, like I sign on to Tumblr and I still feel that like excitement to create, the excitement to share, which I don't get with Instagram, which I don't get with TikTok at all. And so Tumblr to me, I was like, I don't want to just like leave it in the past. You know, it's still active, it's still there. And if I can get that feeling that it gave me, I'm down to just stay. And also influence other people to remember that we don't have to leave good things, you know? We don't have to run to the next social media thing.
We follow that feeling, that instinct that feels right and like the right medium of expression. When did you realize like your Instagram was really growing, or that this was a space that people were like captivated by?
You know, there was a weird transition where I was completely anonymous, just making memes, and then I started sharing feelings, and then it kind of turned into this like more, and then what was really interesting that I was anonymous this whole time, and it started kicking off when I started showing myself, and I realized like people need a person, like people need a face,
Yes.
you know, and you don't have to be like this like star person, they just want to see who's behind
Yes.
it. They want to see someone who kind of looks like them. Once I started showing my face and showing outfits, it just started like changing beyond what it was. It made such a difference. And all of a sudden I was getting stuff in the mail and like actual offers for ads and stuff. That's when it shifted into more kind of a influencer-esque kind of vibe, yeah.
How did it feel when that happened? And then I'll share my experience. But it's a moment.
It is a moment. No, I really want to hear yours. I want to ask that to everyone actually who's had the influencer moment, because it's weird. At first, it was just like, this doesn't make sense, like LOL, right? And then I started to feel really weird because I grew up with like nothing. Like I didn't have nice things, and the nicest things I got in my life in the beginning was from these like free brands. And I wouldn't wear any of it. I would just like put it on display in my room. Like somebody would send me like a really nice jacket and I'd like hang it and be like, one day like I can wear this special thing. And then I felt like guilty. It was like I had a guilt moment. That was like last year. And then I started just being like, dude, you gotta be grateful. You gotta celebrate good things. And then now I feel like in this really cool place of like I only say yes to things I really believe in, and I feel really grateful and like celebratory. But it was jarring. Like I look back and I'm like, that really like, I don't know why getting that attention could be so freaky, but it was. What about you? What happened?
Totally. It happened really fast on TikTok. I already have like
your TikTok, I saw it just like
it was crazy. Medium, some of the things about it, the algorithm and its power freak me out anyway, whether I blew up on it or not. Yeah, like it's very addictive.
You can feel it.
You just feel it, right? It's like entrenched. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's salad time. And then the growth so fast. Fear and anxiety. Yeah.
Okay, did you realize, this is something I've been thinking about, and I heard Drake said it in an interview, and then Charli D'Amelio said it too, where there's this moment where people discover you, and you start getting speed, and everyone's rooting for you, and it's all very positive, and then it gets to a point where people stop.
Yeah.
And then it starts being like, you have people who like you, and then you have people that are like so, and it's like, that's a weird part.
I think that plays into the model that of us being products a little bit online, and then it's disposability.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, what is it that's making us so okay with like treating people like we're like products or services? And I was like, review culture, like Yelp and all that, which I think is great. Like I read Yelp reviews all the time, but like that confidence that you can review anything and that your opinion is like so important. But the thing is like humans aren't products or services. You and I, we never promised a certain result. Like the way that they're looking at people is like, you were supposed to give me this on your account and you didn't give it to me, you know, or this doesn't align to my beliefs, so I'm very upset and I want everyone to know it. So people think that they can review people.
And then I think TikTok and the structure of the medium fosters that too, because people can make requests for videos and there's a video responses. I get emails being like, hey, can you help me with my homework? Like I need to know this about the Kardashians. And I'm like, I'm glad you're engaged in like reading and think I can help you, but I can't take those requests. Like there's just a lot.
Like how did you even think that was a question?
I don't have a question. I'd be curious to explore like relationship to social media and memory.
You think it's negative? You think it's like
really sometimes memories that you have, you remember like the social media moment more than you remember the actual moment. And or social media moments are becoming memories in and of themselves. Like there's Twitter moments that were like, do you remember when that happened? Like that merging of the two like selves is really interesting to me, and how that's gonna affect our collective memory and how that's gonna affect our individual memories.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, in another way though, I have thought about how like, it's almost like having a hard drive, like an external memory, because when I had a Finsta and I like deleted it recently, but I would go back and there's stuff that was like, you know, you post whatever on Finstas. And I would look and be like, I would have forgot this unless I had this like picture to remind me of this like moment. It depends on, I think, how you share, but if it's like for like a Finsta situation, it almost like expands your memory to me, where it's like, oh, I have this like external hard drive which has like a photo that will take me somewhere. It expands our memory in some way, but then makes us more reliant on that external hard drive, which ends up probably fucking with our memory. So it's like, do we become more dependent on this thing, which if we become dependent on it, has the potential to make our memory even crazier, but not internally.
She's been exploring this concept of like Kim Kardashian being like saying like, oh, I'll talk about like craving Oreos, and all of a sudden like they're at my door. Okay, that's a unique example because she's like rich and famous, but like we have that in our own lives. That pipeline is so shortened by technology of like, we want food, we go on Seamless and we can press a button and it's at our door. So like that Warner Herzog documentary.
Lo and behold, Werner Herzog.
Where there's this guy talking about like, oh, someday we might be able to just tweet our thoughts. Like the only barrier between that actually happening, like it's really almost there. It's just this physical phone.
Yeah.
Right? And conceptually, we already are merged in that way.
And okay, if you think about how popular manifestation has become, and how it aligns with that. Like you were saying, like him being like my Oreos and you being like, I'm craving this and I'll get it. They kind of match up. And I've never thought about that until now. Even, you know, like becoming an influencer, you know, things like that. It's like you go into this world where things can come so easily to you. It's just like the way that we can instantly like make connections in this kind of like surface level way that can give us a life or like, you know.
No, totally.
It's directly in tune with that. It's crazy.
And you've mentioned before it's viewing algorithms as spiritual. Could we talk about that?
So one of the first things that I really was like obsessed with like was making peace with the internet, right? Which we talked about a little bit. Something about that I realized is that so many mindfulness practices talk about controlling your thoughts and what you give attention to. Like that's like one of the number one like top 5 I think sentiments shared by any wellness mindfulness coach, right? Is like what you focus on grows. Yeah. And the interesting thing about the algorithm is that's exactly how it operates in the sense that like, you know, if you spend a night looking at, let's say, before and after photos of celebrities, right? Then your whole feed is full of that. All of a sudden the algorithm says, oh, this person's obsessed with beauty and body augmentation. So when they go to their explore page, that's what we'll show them. When a story has something like that in, that we'll show it to them. And then all of a sudden your reality becomes obsessed with this moment that was probably just passing, you know? Or if you have, you know, bad breakup, for example, and you're looking at your ex and his friends and all these things and you're going on and on and on. It's like all of a sudden you have this like, you know, the internet becomes this like toxic space for you and you don't know why, and you blame yourself and you're like, why am I like this? And it's like, no, what you focus on grows, but algorithmically it's not a, you know, spiritual phenomena as much as it is just a code that either thinks it's helping you by giving you more of what you want or just wants to keep your attention, or probably a mixture of both. I had that with TikTok too, where I would be more into like dramatic videos about like relationships and like stuff like that because it was more entertaining. And then I would find myself being like, TikTok's like a really negative place. And I'd be like, I don't see funny stuff, I don't see animals anymore. And I'd be like, I have to make that decision. So now before I deleted it, I would go and I'd be like, I'm not interested in this. I would actually actively say, I'm not interested in this video. And I had a better time on it. We can't look at social media and the internet as this like foreign being that came in and infected our culture. We invented it. We maintain it every day. We tell it what it's going to do next, and we can see ourselves more in it than we think that we can. What you focus on grows. Also in the algorithm, like
even if the algorithm is designed in a lot of ways to like at this point sell us stuff and engage us, it is still simulating or reflecting consciousness.
Absolutely.
So there's a responsibility there in how we engage with it. It really does feel like you're someone who truly uses social media as a tool and as expression, and you seem to manage the addictive part of it, okay, from the outside at least. How do you relate to that?
The only thing I think that I need to work on is just like the instant feedback aspect, which I find very unnatural. But anything I post, instantly there's throughout the entire day. So when I'm checking my phone, usually I realized it's not really me like checking emails or like checking on my friends as much as it is just being like, oh, like what did someone say? Because there's always something there. And that's the only thing that I struggle with, but I don't really look at, I'm not like a big scroller and I never really have been. Like I could have my phone away from me for like a week. I know I'd be fine because it's not a source of entertainment as much as like research, I guess. When I produce stuff, it happens like right there. And I've had friends, especially like influencer friends, will be like, whoa, like you just post that right now next to me. We're about to go to bed. When they post content, they take their time and like write it out and like sit down. And I think the difference with me is that it's very like on site and so like part of my life, but that's always how I've been, where it's just like I'm very like impulsive and I go and go. So it's like everything I post is really just happening at like midnight in like 5 minutes. It's an interesting pace and I am questioning it, you know? But I don't feel addicted. I don't, especially people who have very like analytical and like active minds. It's like sometimes the function of the smartphone or social media is to just ground it and get it out of your head. And sometimes I feel like it is a tool, whether it's like I'm on Tumblr typing something out or on Instagram. It's like it feels like instead of having it in the hamster wheel of my head, like why don't I just put it out there, get a reaction, let it go in a way. And I think that's really the function of social media for me. Even the memes were a perfect medium to be like, oh my God, I just had this realization, let me put it down, let me stop thinking about it. And it has that function which feels really like lovely and helpful, especially because it's like my head is always going, it does not stop. But then it does venture into the space of like, okay, then why am I like, why do I keep checking? Like I produced this, it's gone, but why am I still in the hamster wheel of like, okay, what's the reaction and like, how does this exist and like, what does this mean, you know?
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's fully my experience. It's the same thing, I feel it. But now there's the added element of these mediums that they are designed to kind of have us checking.
And then like you said, it's like the algorithm itself, the way the medium is set up, it's like you have to kind of fight that and have a lot of intention, you know?
It takes an active like resistance, I think.
And that also adds to the confusion of how other people perceive it, because it's like when you and I see it as this tool only for almost for like our own like actualization and like therapy, and then to other people it's this like brand. It's like I'm over here like processing, and I like mean what I say. It's always for me first. Then it forms this like person, this like entity, and then I have to be responsible for the entity.
Now people are going to watch this and share it, and it's like a thing of critique. Specifically when I was going to talk about Donda, it's like there are going to be music fans and like music critic types that are going to be like, fuck this take. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
I shared my Donda takes. Anyone who says we shouldn't talk about Kanye, like, isn't paying attention. Like, he has he's changed fashion. He's changed everything.
Yes.
You don't have to like be in love with him and like praise him and stuff to just be like, no, your work has such an influence on the world, and I'm not gonna lie. I think he's so interesting to watch now in a time where like everyone's so critical and like cancel culture is like this thing, you know, and he's someone who flourished in a time where that didn't exist. And it's like, are we gonna get another Kanye ever? Because we don't give our artists that freedom anymore or that trust. That's really what it is.
And he was doing really real stuff off the cuff impulsively before things were so curated and constructed and there were those fears, and then it set the stage for the kind of media manipulations that like the Kardashians do now that are planned. But he was in that headspace doing real stuff, like fucking shit up, like going for it, being honest and really caring before a lot of things locked in now, the way we're living now. Probably kind of traumatized by it too, I think sometimes.
I think he's very traumatized. I've met some people, you know, in early cancel culture era, I met a couple people who were like really canceled and like they have PTSD.
I'm sure.
Hardcore.
I'm sure. I feel like we use the words like cancel culture and then accountability thing and like all of that.
So,
but there's not the forgiveness or the grace moment.
Accountability is, you know, I offend you and then we talk about it and we get a better relationship from it. And that's possible because you're not this huge entity of different people with, you know, motives that I can't even see, you know? But then when like a meme page tries to cancel you or a bunch of random people, and then it turns into a game of telephone where it's like this situation, I heard about this, and then, but I also think this, and then it becomes this monster that's like, that's not accountability, it just becomes like management at a certain point. Like accountability is not the right word when accountability can't be achieved with a parasocial audience and figure relationship. Like it just can't. And then cancel culture is just like, I hate saying it. You know, it sounds like tacky. Saying it. Totally. Cancel culture. I kind of almost see it as like tabloid culture, but in the hands of individuals instead of magazines. And it's just a new way to talk shit half the time. I think some cancels are very valuable. Like Me Too, for example, racist things happening in the workplace that were being exposed. To me, that was so functional and so wonderful. But then it became a context to view everything, including opinion that cannot be quantified into like a relationship that can be solved or like held accountable for, you know?
There is more to it that I don't think we understand yet around the viewing of all of us as products. Yeah, totally. And this idea of like, we're boycotting you so you lose your capital because we view you as capital and this is a punishment. It's very punitive. And when you were saying about tabloid culture, I know there's been times where people we followed have been canceled and there's like a text or like if we're around each other like, oh shit, he just got canceled, like what happened? And then you like want to get the drama. It's about the drama.
When you see a cancel from the outside, like, oh, like this influencer is being canceled by these people, I'm reading the comments, it reads so direct. Like they did this, we're mad, that's it. But when you're on the other end of it and you're hearing it, you're like, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie. I don't know these people. These people aren't even like in my community at all. Like it just becomes this weird thing where it's like doesn't make sense anymore. And so now when I see cancels, I'm like, they're probably having that experience too, where it's like a game of telephone, like I said, where it just the thing changes, it becomes this very like tabloid, like let's take down the person that's successful moment. It gets really strange and I just don't trust it anymore. And people love it because it's entertaining. Like even telling this story, it's like, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy to think about? What's wrong with everybody? Like we're trusting the fake account.
Well, we trust the simulated reality, and then a nebulous space is captivating to us. I think that brings us also to the Kardashians a little bit, where we're like watching it for that uncanniness to figure out where the truth really sits, and we'll never know, especially with them, but we're drawn to that space. What were your favorite social media platforms in the last 15 years?
I'm in the minority of this, but I think Tumblr.
Yo, iFunny. 2006.
iFunny?
iFunny.
I have to say Instagram, but I also love Pinterest as well.
Yo, I was like in middle school. Where all the memes, that's where memes started. Like deadass, like all that shit is from iFunny.
I love the aesthetic of Tumblr, and it is my favorite thing to stare at.
What was that one app where you could post whatever you want, but then it's just like, it's That's what I'm looking for. No, it's not Tumblr.
I follow a lot of people who know how to dress well, and that's where I get my inspiration.
I'd probably have to say Instagram. There's a lot of different things you can explore, and now that you can like go shopping on it, I spend a lot of time looking for like shoes and dresses like this. So.
What was that one that was just like you could put anything like a log for everyone to see, but it's like
A what?
I feel like Pinterest is better than Instagram because it's like more creative, and that's where I get all my painting ideas from.
it's a green app.
I mean, I loved Vine. I thought Vine was hilarious. I wish that was still here.
Yeah, anonymous. Yak. Have you heard of Yak?
I kind of had fun on like Clubhouse for like a little bit. Just like there's still like intimacy as far as like being able to like hear just like a couple strangers speak, I guess, within that space.
Bitch, keep going. Stand right here. Oh, right.
Keep walking.
Oh shit, that was like a New York moment. I know. So we just saw a moment of, an extreme like tension. These moments are happening in hubs, like infrastructure hubs that are like their own kind of like media connection, telecommunications, but like IRL. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we just like witnessed like somebody like fighting in the comment section.
Right, exactly. What was going on in your life that your peak Tumblr usage?
That was probably like beginning of high school, like ending of middle school time. It was definitely like a more form of expression back then, but it's definitely like a way I was able to like put things on paper or on pictures that I could actually see what I was feeling.
Instagram.
You like Instagram?
Yeah, and I kind of feel like it's my diary, and I don't really like care about what other people think. I just post the pictures to keep this diary that I have in my feed.
I don't like use Snapchat a ton now, but like in high school and stuff, like I was like had so many streaks with all my friends, like constant communication, and I have all like my Snap memories saved like on the platform, so it's like good to look through.
I barely think about Snapchat.
Did you once love Snapchat?
Probably like middle school, but
Snapchat died when I was like 16. He uses Snapchat and he's like 6 years younger than me. I don't know why it's still alive for him.
So there's still a like segment of the human population that's using it.
Yeah. I feel like everything I put on Snapchat past is now on TikTok.
TikTok has infiltrated like every other social media platform. YouTube Shorts, or like what Facebook is also doing something. You go to those social medias and you see like the TikTok username there anyway. So
center of activity in the global village.
Everything I use is still like popular.
We're still like so young, so like all of it's still in style, I guess. Like our generation of going into social media is still like what's going on, so it's not like we really had a past in it.
I think TikTok is a great platform. I've also phased out a lot of social medias, but I think the pandemic has gotten me into TikTok, for better or for worse.
We actually don't have TikTok in Hong Kong. It's banned. So for us, like Instagram is probably the only thing that we use. Pinterest.
Honestly, I love Facebook, and it's not like none of my like older family members have Snapchat, Instagram. It's just like keeping up with them on Facebook, so it's like a whole other world of like your own, like your family social media for me. It would be cool if it was all in one.
Isn't that weird that like we're kind of fractured because we're like engaging with different ones? Yeah.
Probably TikTok right now. Honestly, TikTok is my favorite just because it's so easy and you just keep going through, and it's really custom to like what you want to watch and what you want to see.
Because it's very customizable to who each user is, and
you can learn a lot through TikTok. And allows people to really create like niches for everyone to find something, connect with someone that they vibe with. I don't think you have a TikTok.
No, I don't.
I go on TikTok all the time. I don't make any, but I watch a lot.
Honestly, at the beginning of this trip, Contra was surprised I like listened to a bunch of affirmation TikTok.
Oh, why don't you have TikTok?
Part of it was just like it was like an infinite scroll, right? So you were just kind of like stuck in it, and you just realized like an hour had passed by. I just thought it would be better to just like cut it out completely, and like occasionally like receive funny videos and so forth, but like
it's short and easy to absorb.
I mean, I think it definitely impacted my attention span nowadays, but I think that's my source of entertainment.
It affected your attention span, but it also serves it.
Yes, so I can absorb more content in shorter periods of time.
It's a great outfit. I love that outfit too.
Yeah. It's really good. I'm almost like, should we?
Are you gonna buy that exact outfit? We should both like leave with the outfit.
Okay, so you started with LA memes. It's a simulation city in a way, or Baudrillard calls it that. There's a balance of infrastructure and entertainment, but also nature. Again, it seems like you kind of straddle both.
Because I was born in LA, I've been here forever. I feel lucky in the sense that a lot of myths were busted early on, and I think a lot of people come here with this idea that is honestly true. The myths are true. Like I always say, like the rumors are true, but they're feeble. Like they're not, the same way that I feel like social media really shows us that no matter who you are, you're a performer in this life, no matter what. And almost on this very like spiritual level, I feel like LA has always been a place for performers, whether you're an actual like artist or just a person who wants to be in a place where you're allowed to perform and no one's gonna like wag a finger at you and be like, you're acting brand new. Like, you know, it's like LA is where you can do that.
Oh yeah,
and
you can experiment.
LA is almost like a map, like a Disneyland map, where it's like you go here, you know the outfits you're gonna see, the type of people you're gonna see, the type of celebrity you'll probably see. It feels like a fantasy land of like little worlds and like little quests. It can be very fun and very exciting and you can find yourself in really funny situations. And I always tell people it's like you can learn the hard way and like push yourself and believe all the myths, or you could just be like, this is a place of free expression where random things are happening all the time and there's no system other than, I don't know, just like feeding the beast and getting something back, you know?
If I didn't do New York, I would do LA, because I feel like there are cities where people go with dreams and there's like a lot going on. It's just distributed in the infrastructure differently.
It's funny because there's also this agreement, like not all relationships are transactional at all. Like that's another myth too, but some are, but they are with full awareness of their transactional nature. There's no like bullshit, you know? And I always tell people like, don't come to LA to like meet your BFF, you know? Like come to like work and know the difference between, there's some people who you'll meet and you'll get really close to. Like I have relationships that began really transactional and now we're like friends, you know, like true friends.
Yeah, and that's actually how I connect to people. I'm a little bit more protective of how I'm vulnerable socially, so work is my favorite way to connect with people.
Same here.
Actually.
You know what? People think that it's a surface level transactional thing, but I'm like, it's actually deep because it's your resources.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when you work with someone and like, you know, both benefit, it's like, that's like a base level community love. You know, that's like our resources, our work, we're helping each other survive and build. Like that's kind of Lincoln build.
No, Lincoln build. Oh my God, that's so funny. Like I guess we're linking and building right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the lightning round. Have you ever experienced a glitch in the simulation?
I feel like I'm a glitch in the simulation. I don't know. I feel like I actively try to break the simulation. Like I think my whole life is literally based on being like, what is not real? I think because when I think of the simulation, I think of all the things that put us in this like autopilot state that don't match up to the truths of life. And to me, the truth of life is the aspect of ephemerality, like the temporary nature, and like death and life. And I think that's all that we can really focus on. Anytime that we can actually step out of the simulation that wants us to think that anything in life can be permanent or drastically important to the point that it's like weighted. Anytime we step out of that, I think is a glitch in the simulation. And the more we do it, the better.
Which Kardashian are you?
In this current era, I would 100% be Kourtney just because of the Travis situation.
She's having her main character moment.
Totally.
Yeah, she is.
And don't you feel like she's being rewarded for her skepticism of their simulation?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I always liked her because she was like the glitchy one. She was. You know?
Totally. Okay, final one. What's your personal brand?
I think my personal brand is just being, like, I really feel like my tagline, it really sums it up, which is like, I am constantly shape-shifting, adapting, and evolving. And I picked those words very, very specifically in a world that asks us to constantly define our stance and pick a binary stance every day. I just want to be the reminder that the nature of life is the complete opposite, both as a human being and within culture in the world, and that everything that we just find to be so weighted and heavy and important to like define ourselves within it is just going to pass before we know it. And I find a lot of freedom in that, and then so that just becomes kind of, I guess, a brand of like freedom, maybe. Internal freedom, perceptive freedom, right?
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, because that was a great conversation.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
Thinking about new things. I have new like neurons or something.
Would the Matrix have been made in CSS? To me, I'm like, this is a valid interview question.
No, it's dead ass a good fucking question. That's the shitty part.
You guys were computers, unfortunately. You guys, I hate to say it.
No, bro, we're fucking computers, yes! No, you're absolutely right, baby! No, baby, you're right! Scientists from MIT were saying that they found code in math, and they found code.
I read about this.
What are you
talking about? What are you talking about?